in my book, until you have your foundation principles met, there's no need for the fancy stuff. Get good sleep, get optimal sleep, get good hydration, get good nutrition.
I'm Luke Story. For the past 22 years, I've been relentlessly committed to my deepest passion, designing the ultimate lifestyle based on the most powerful principles of spirituality, health, psychology, and personal development. The Lifestylist Podcast is a show dedicated to sharing my discoveries and the experts behind them with you. Over the years, I've seen the rise in awareness around gut health. And what's come along with that is the rise in probiotic products. And unfortunately, most of them don't work. I've tried a lot of them. And frankly, I think they are mostly a waste of money for a number of different reasons. One of which being they really don't survive the gut. That's why I love our friends over at Just Thrive Probiotic. They've got a spore-based probiotic. It's DNA verified and has 100% survivability. That means it actually gets into your gut and does what it's supposed to do. It's also vegan, non-GMO, soy-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, salt-free, nut-free, and gluten-free. Most importantly, it actually works. It's got clinically proven strains for leaky gut, and they're doing 9 other ongoing human clinical trials at this very moment. It's a great way to support your immune system and your brain. If your gut is not working right, guess what? Your brain's not going to work right either. A lot of times when we have fatigue and we're tired and brain fog and all these kind of symptoms we have up in the dome, it's actually coming from down below in the gut. So we got to get that cleared out. And Just Thrive is an amazing way to do that. If you want to get your hands on some, it's very easy. Get over to thriveprobiotic.com/Luke. Then use the code Luke15 to save 15% off your entire order. That's thriveprobiotic.com/Luke. Get your hands on some of these spore-based probiotics and you can say goodbye to gut and digestion problems. Get over to thriveprobiotic.com/Luke. And again, use the code Luke15 to save 15% off your order. I'd like to share with you 2 of my favorite things. One is delicious, organic, mold-free coffee. The other one is medicinal mushrooms. And you know who makes both of those in one product? Drum roll, please. Of course, our longtime sponsor and my friends at Four Sigmatic. Now, you're probably thinking, why would I want to mix coffee with mushrooms? Doesn't that taste gross? Well, I can guarantee you it tastes just like regular coffee, not at all like mushrooms. It's also made with 100% organic Arabica coffee beans. It's got no sugar, no carbs, no calories. That means it's, of course, vegan, paleo, sugar-free, dairy-free, all that good stuff. Although mine's not dairy-free because I make mine with ghee or grass-fed butter, but you don't have to. You could put some other fat in there. Or just drink it black if you want to be hardcore. It also has half the caffeine of regular coffee, which is really cool. So you can kind of gauge how much lift off you want. You know what I'm saying? So if it's like later in the day, I'll make a Four Sigmatic mushroom coffee by opening up one of the little packets and I'll just use one. I'll make myself a great little pick-me-up drink. But if it's a morning and for some reason my sleep sucked or I'm traveling, I might put 2 to even 4 packets in either hot or cold water. Sometimes, honestly, when I'm traveling, I'll just like put a couple of those in a bottle of water, shake it up, and just have like coffee for the sake of its medicine, right? So they're really easy to use and you can take them anywhere and you can really customize your coffee in terms of how strong it is. So I think this product is just absolutely fantastic. I've got a special offer for you. You can get 15% off your Four Sigmatic order by going to foursigmatic.com/Luke Story. That's FOURSIGMATIC, foursigmatic.com/Luke Story, and get 15% off your order. And a really good place to start is their amazing coffee. You are in for a treat with this episode. It's number 288, Breathwork, DMT, and Next Level Living with my friends Dr. Har Hari Khalsa and Troy Casey. So this is a 2-guest episode. We talk about all kinds of crazy stuff in this conversation, guys. The history and benefits of Kundalini yoga and Har Hari's conversion to Sikhism, how he healed from past trauma, including the death of his former wife, all the lessons they've both learned from ayahuasca and DMT, breathwork, ice baths, how each of them got into biohacking and their favorite alternative healing modalities. We also cover all of the cutting-edge tools Dr. Har Hari uses in his clinic, the Transformational Healing Universe, like lasers, pulse centers, PEMF, the biocharger, and tons of other wacky gadgets. We talk about the negative impact of porn, Troy's new incredible book, Ripped at 50, A Journey to Self-Love, and channeling sexual energy. So this is a really educational, inspiring, and more than anything, deeply funny conversation with these two wacky gentlemen that I love so much. So it brings me great pleasure to deliver these two guests to you. A little bit about our two guests before we jump in. Troy's been on the show before. I think this would be his third visit. He's also known as the Certified Health Nut, and he has successfully restored physical, mental, and emotional balance to clients who have failed with all other systems. And his system is incredible. It's all based on nature. He's got a very unique, holistic approach using simplicity as a guide. And again, his book, Ripped at 50, A Journey to Self-Love, you can find it at ripped50book.com. I highly recommend that you grab that. And then our other guest, Dr. Har Hari Khalsa, DC, is an extremely experienced holistic chiropractor who's been assisting people on their healing journey since 1988. At Har Hari's clinic, the Transformational Healing Universe in the Pico Robertson neighborhood of Los Angeles, of which I am a frequent guest, he focuses on chiropractic, medical, and yogic healing. He specializes in several techniques and modalities, including chiropractic adjustments, Kundalini yoga and meditation, the Wim Hof method, and Sumas laser treatments, formerly known as K-laser. So this place is a treasure trove of all things healing. In fact, so much so that after we were done with this interview, I took a tour of Har Hari's clinic and made it into a special bonus show, episode 289, that will be released this Friday. So essentially, we went and tried out every single modality, and there's many of them, and recorded it on video and audio. So as you hear Dr. Har Hari make references to some of the things in his clinic, know that there's a much deeper dive coming later this week. Then on Sunday, we've got a special rebroadcast episode of my recent appearance on the Align podcast with Aaron Alexander, where we talk about spirituality, all forms of addiction, and how to find God in troubling times. Then we're back with our regular programming on Tuesday, number 290, Stone by Stone, The Pathway to Enlightenment with Panache Desai. That is an episode you don't want to miss. Here's how you avoid missing episodes, guys. You reach down to your podcast player right now and click subscribe to this show. It's that easy. One button, subscribe. And every week, every single episode will be downloaded to your device. Okay, without further ado, let's jump into this fascinating conversation with Troy Casey, the Certified Health Nut, and Dr. Har Hari Khalsa. All right, so we're here with Har Hari and third-time guest, Troy Casey, a.k.a. the Certified Health Nut. And for those of you listening, we just did, I don't know, we've been here maybe 4 hours doing all the modalities, all the biohacks here at Har Hari's spot. Now, I hadn't seen him in a couple of years.
3.5 years? Well, we've seen each other, but we haven't connected.
I haven't been here to your spot. So he's since moved and expanded, and now he just has the most incredible healing center probably that I've ever been to, definitely in LA. So it was so fun to come hang out. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Troy's latest venture, Ripped at 50, his new book, which I had a chance to scan through in my speed reading way that I do, crushing for interviews. And we're going to have a good-ass time.
Sweet.
So I'm going to start with you, Har Hari, since it's your first time on the show.
Yep.
What was the impetus for you as a Sikh Kundalini yoga guy, chiropractor, to get into all of these alternative modalities before it was even called biohacking? Like, how did you first start to get into this, and what were some of the, the early devices and contraptions and things like that you came across?
I think it was around 2000 or maybe the late 90s. I learned about the PEMF from Germany. The QRS was the very first one. I don't know if you remember that one, white pad. And back then, that was the biohack. That was it. Now it seems so antiquated, but back then it was a big deal. And I think right around then I had read the book about Rife, Royal Raymond Rife. I think it came out in the 80s or something. Right after I graduated chiropractic school, I read that book and I was like, do you know that book? Have you ever read the life story of Royal Raymond Rife?
No, I haven't. I mean, I'm familiar with Rife and Rife frequencies, but I've not read the book.
Well, there's a book about his life, and I got my hands on it at one point, and I was pretty stunned, to say the least, because he was curing end-stage cancer in the 20s with frequencies. And subsequently to that, he got suppressed, and then they destroyed his lab and discredited him. But all of this came out, it was public. It was like in the newspapers. You can Google the old newspaper articles of him curing all these people at USC. He was actually backed by USC before the Flexner, report came out to discredit all holistic medicine. But he got caught up in that whole cycle where they started discrediting homeopaths, herbalists, everything back in the 30s. And so that knowledge pretty much got suppressed and was wiped out of the culture until like the late 80s, early 90s. I think we started getting some information that there was cool stuff out there that we didn't have access to. And then I think around that time I got introduced to a woman who had a Rife machine. I actually had one with the tubes and gas tubes.
The tube, like noble gas tubes that you hold on to.
Ed Skilling. I had those.
Yeah, this was a different one than that. Although that's another one. This one was actually just straight up Rife frequencies programmed into a box. This is like pre-internet. You had to dial in the numbers. But you know what? Those machines worked. I used them in my clinic back then. People would come in, like, say, with a strep throat or something, and we'd dial in the strep throat frequency, and boom, they're better. One treatment. It was like crazy. And by the way, that's what we should be using now in hospitals, because it's ridiculous. These people are dying, when we've known for years about this stuff, and nobody wants to take it seriously right now because it's a $3.5 trillion industry, the big pharma, and they don't want any of this stuff out there.
Well, it's the programming that goes along with it, and the whole system and the setups of all the systems. Actually, Rockefeller Foundation funds everything. They started the American Medical Association. Only a state licensed medical doctor can treat, mitigate, or cure any disease. The control on what you can say or can't say about cancer, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, these are outside of that paradigm, healing modalities. And so, but what did Tesla say? If you want to understand the universe, understand energy, frequency, and vibration.
Yeah, that's it. And, back then, this is the late 90s, early 2000s. My wife at the time, who's since passed away, but she got diagnosed with cancer in 2001, right after 9/11. And that was really a dark period, like, globally, but also just in my personal life. When she got that diagnosis, I had 3 young kids, and, we were looking at everything holistic and medical, both. I actually took her to Germany. At the time, there was a clinic there that was like the most prestigious, like, holistic medical clinic. And they were doing hyperthermia with low-dose chemo and all these, exotic things back then, glutathione, the stuff that was very common now. They were doing it back then. And they told me, they said, listen, we could keep her alive probably forever if she stayed in Germany. But if she goes back to the hospital in Santa Monica, St. John's, they will kill her. And that's exactly what happened. They killed her. Unfortunately, and there's, not going to sue them, but, straight up, they killed her, with whole brain radiation that would just wiped out her brain. And that was it. And it was funny because the radiologist gets on the phone with me and says, if we don't do this radiation, whole brain radiation, by the way, it's just the most devastating form of radiation. They only do it on like 1 patient a year. And she'll die within 2 months, right? And she died within 2 months of him telling me if she didn't, that she would die. And she went and did it. And I think that ended her life, was that radiation.
Did she make that decision, or did you guys make it together? Or was it out of fear?
I mean, I was opposed to it, but she wanted to do it, and I couldn't oppose her, because it was her decision to do it, and that was it.
On a side note, how did you deal with, or how are you dealing with the grief of that experience?
I mean, it was tough. There was a lot of, I would say I had more anger than grief. I would say I had some grief, but I had a lot of anger. I mean, because I felt totally powerlessness. I had total powerless as far as the medical profession, myself as a healer, just lack of power, total lack of power to do anything. And, I also realized that, everybody has their own kind of destiny in this life, how they're going to die, So that whole process took me into my own deep inner healing, like you guys were talking earlier about, ayahuasca and things like that. And I ended up in ayahuasca ceremonies myself about 3 or 4 years ago. And that was the biggest leap forward, I'd say, in the emotional healing on the level of grief and inner anger. I think that gave me the biggest healing that I have had. Because a lot of that stuff just gets suppressed after a while. Like you just don't even want to deal with it. But then the plant medicine, brings it right to the surface, and then you got to deal with it.
And then I'm assuming also that would have been a huge motivator for you to start exploring even deeper in all the different alternative modalities.
Oh, totally. I mean, that just launched me, especially deep into the breath work, all forms of breath work, but especially like right now I'm focusing on the Wim Hof method just because of the immune aspects, the known immune aspects of how it helps, build your immunity. In these times, that's like super important. So
tell us, everybody listening at home, there's a lot of breath work online right now. So you're doing 3 rounds of 30 of deep breaths with holds?
No, I'm going more like 6 to 12 rounds a day.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going deep. I mean, I don't want to fool around.
And how long does that? And that's good because I want to talk about breathwork because Troy, every time I see you on Instagram, you're doing some crazy ass shit, and so I want to find out what your latest developments are with breathing. So, do you find because for those watching the YouTube video, you're Sikh dude, you practice with Yogi Bhajan for 25 years. You got your turban, very nice orange kind of marigold perhaps turban. Do you find parallels between the trends we're seeing in breathwork and these different modalities and just the old school original Kundalini practice?
Totally. I mean, to me, like it's just a continuation. Like,
at what point does converting to Sikhism come in? And tell us a little bit about the Sikh religion. I think people from the outside often observe some of the older generation of the Kundalini practitioners, and especially those that were around Yogi Bhajan and the organizations that do teacher training and KRI and 3HO and all this, that many of the Westerners converted to Sikhism and all, have the little bracelet, sometimes the little sword and the turban and the whole thing. Yeah. When did that become part of that journey, and was it encouraged or, by him or?
Well, in my case, it was that's a really deep question you're asking, because in my case, I had a strange kind of connection. And when I first saw Sikhs in the very beginning, like in the 70s, I was like, wow, what the heck is that? Like, it was such a odd looking thing. I mean, I knew it was something interesting and kind of weird, but I didn't know what it was, And then what happened to me was I went to a retreat where it was a Kundalini retreat out in the desert. I think it was in Joshua Tree or something. And when I was at that retreat, and this is long before plant medicine, before anybody knew what plant medicine was, I had this profound dream. It was almost like a lucid dream where I was with one of the Sikh gurus, actually, like at the, historically was with him in this whole like episode of what happened historically. And I was like, just blown away. I was like, what the heck? I'm with the Sikh guru. Like, I'm supposed to be a Sikh. Like, I just got it that this guru, who was Guru Gobind Singh, was my guru. Like, I just freaking got it in a dream state. And then the next day, at this retreat, they told us the story about the guru. And I'm like, oh my God, I had the same dream the night before.
Wow.
I was just, I was like totally blown away. Cause I was like, oh my God. I was just like, oh my God, this isn't happening. It blew my mind. I was not doing drug. I mean, I guess Kundalini in a way is a drug, right? It's really a replacement.
Getting high on your own supply, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so in a way, I guess doing the Kundalini opens up your inner vision and you see your past lives. You know, and I had a healer once work on me. I had a cut in my abdomen where I'd had surgery. And she put her hands right there and she goes, you were cut in one of your past lives and you bled out, you know? And I had all this grief and stuff associated with that. And I had a surgery in the same place. She had no idea about my medical condition. And she just tuned into I had a scar from a past life as a Sikh.
Wow.
You know, because Sikhs were warriors back then. You know, they're getting cut up with swords. Yeah, it was quite a journey. A journey of, you know, I guess inner realizations of that connection, you know, with the Sikhs. And, you know, it just made sense. Everything kind of fell into place. And to me, it's never been about a religion. It's always been about just your own inner discipline, you know, self-discipline. Like what Troy's doing, what you're, you know, we're all doing it basically.
And what are a couple of the, because I don't know that much about Sikhism other than just the cool outfits and whatnot. Yeah. What are a couple of the main core tenets or principles of Sikhism?
I would say one is work hard work, or, you know, share what you earn with others and meditate on God. That's it. Wow. I mean, it's literally those three things.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's dope.
It's super simple.
I'm in.
I got that.
Let me work on the beard. You got the beard already, dude. You need a turban. Get rid of that black. We need white in there.
I mean, it's such, you know, the Sikh tradition is like, you know, in New York during the, you know, during this epidemic, there was a Sikh organization in New York that just made, I think, like 30,000 meals that they just delivered to people who were either homeless or couldn't get the food. Because that's another big tenet of Sikhs is serving food. Service. It's just a big thing of just serving food and helping people. You know.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for the insight. On that note, have you ever received any kind of you know, rejection or backlash from Indian Sikh people? Or
no, not Indians. Every experience I've had with Indians has been wide open. They just, when I've gone to India, they just love you. They just love you to pieces. It's like you're just seeing your brother. It's amazing. I'd say the biggest thing I've had though was post 9/11 with people equating Sikhs to Muslims. There was definitely a huge backlash in that 2-year period post 9/11. That was scary to be out in public.
Interesting. You know? Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Huh. I wouldn't have even thought of that, but it makes sense, actually. I mean,
the first person who got the backlash was a Sikh in Arizona. He got killed. Literally, right after 9/11, somebody saw him. Guy was a gas station owner, and they came by, and it was just a drive-by shooting. Just killed him because he looked like a Muslim. You know, and that's happened with a lot of Sikhs, a lot of them. And there was a big massacre, I think, in Wisconsin a few years ago. Same thing. The guy is a freaking dumbass redneck. I want to kill those Muslims. He doesn't even know what the difference is between a Muslim and a Sikh. And he goes in there with a gun and just massacres them.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary. I mean, the level of ignorance is, you know, Judgment. My God, it's scary.
Can you share a little bit about the technology of the old turban and the hair and the whole nine?
Well, I mean, it goes back to the time of the Bible, man. The Samson story. I mean, that's it, right? Power.
I definitely feel a lot of power and strength with my beard and hair.
Yeah. I mean, the hair is, you know, the Indians, I'm talking about the Native Americans. They knew about hair. You know, there was a story in World War II where they got the guides, and when they cut their hair, they lost their skill.
Their tracking skills.
Their tracking skills were gone. So the hair is like a antenna, basically. It acts like an antenna when you wrap it in a bun in the top of your head. It's like channeling the cosmic energy through your 10th gate, through your crown chakra, and it's just giving you, especially for men, having hair on your face. It's actually insulating you from the moon. The energy of the moon. Men are not supposed to be influenced by the moon. Women are, because they have a cycle, but men are just connected with the sun, basically.
So yeah, I heard that the beard protects you against the feminine charms.
Exactly. That's the moon energy. Exactly. Yeah. It helps you stay neutral.
And I've noticed that I have a lot more respect. Now, there's a lot of people in the debt slave system. They're like, Troy, you should shave and you'll make more money. and the funny thing is I had the ultimate classic look as an actor and a model for so many years. And I had some success for sure, but it wasn't the major success that I wanted. And it wasn't until I grew out my beard that everything changed. People treated me differently, because even though, I was approaching 50, even my 40s, people still treated me like a kid. I don't know what it was about my energy. And I'm the same person, same personality, but now when I have the beard, people give me more respect. I'm treated completely different, more like an elder. People don't play as many mental gymnastics games with me, I should say. When you have gray, they say the more gray you have, the more wisdom you have, because you've got more life experience behind you. So, yeah, it's a good thing. We all have a little bit. I think I have.
Yeah, you're leading the charge.
I still feel young, though. I have to say, I feel amazing.
Both you guys are real fun. Yeah, not old folks at all. Troy, I want to ask you about your interest in breath work, and did any of that come out of Kundalini? You do some yogi-ish type stuff. Have you really gotten down with the Kundalini practice at all?
I love that, yogi-ish.
Yeah.
Maybe that's going to be my name.
Yeah.
Yogi-ish. That's going to be my spiritual name.
Is a god. Ishwara.
Really? Oh, really?
Yeah, yogi-ish.
Okay, there you go, dude. There's my new name on the Lifestyle Podcast. Yogi-ish. I like that.
Yeah.
Yogi-ish, I think that defines it pretty well. I started practicing Ashtanga yoga in 1999. I studied with one of Madonna's teachers out there. He had just come back from India at the time. And I think his name's Hanuman or something. And he was, what's his name? Ingrid Kasara's Madonna's girlfriend, hooked up with him, and when they came into town, I guess he would train Madonna and stuff, and so he had a studio. When I went back to South Beach in 1999, I studied Ashtanga Mysore, and I took a little bit of yoga when I was in LA. I think 99, 98. I started meditating that whole year. I started practicing Vipassana meditation. So yoga's an eightfold path. So when you say yoga, some people think it's meditation. Some people think it's breath work. Some people think it's asanas or, the aerobics of today in Los Angeles. And as you spoke before, there's seva yoga, then there's devotional yoga. So yoga is an eightfold path. And the definition of yoga is union of body and mind. And so that's where my yoga path started. But again, that was asanas. And some breath work, some breathing, the Ujjayi breathing, scraping the back of the neck. And now I know that activates parasympathetic nervous system response. I never had traditional yoga training. I've just practiced it over the years, some asana. And then when I was going through my divorce, one of my friends who studied with Leonard Orr, and I think he went to the Himalayas as well, he brought me through some holotropic, which is hour-long cyclical breathing. That helped me. But before that, he came to one of my lectures, my seminars, and he he told me about breathwork, and he's like, can I share it with the people? And I said, yeah, can you make it short and sweet? And he did. And he taught me Bastrika. And so very powerful breaths. And I instantly noticed that shifted my state. And soon after that, I was facing divorce. I was sleeping on my own couch, waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning, 50 years old, midlife crisis. What am I doing? Wife's complaining about money. We don't have enough money. So we're going to get divorced. And I was like, well, what am I going to live on? And so I was just like, this guy taught me breath work. And so let's breathe, motherfuckers, and it's like, I just do 3 rounds of 30 and hold my breath. And boom, I woke up and my head was clear and I was able to carry on with my day, somewhat functional. I'd wake up as a basket case. And so that helped me. And then I started filming it online and people got a kick out of it. And then, you got an ice bath and I started jumping in your ice bath. Har Hari.
It's so funny how we're connected. He's the guy I did an ice bath with.
I remember that.
The first guy
I remember that. I had it at my brother's gym on Pico.
Oh my God. I mean, because it's so funny because I had just found Jack Cruz and you're like, yeah, dude, I'm all into Jack Cruz. I'm like, let's go, man.
I remember that. And then you rode your bike off into the sunset.
Dude, I suffered so bad that day. That was the hardest day of my life. After that ice bath.
That was my first chest freezer ice bath. That was the first iteration. Yeah,
no, I actually got into the cow.
It was the cow, the
horse
feed trough.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Ice.
We had that. We had the ice. Yeah, first we had the ice machine with the trough. That was a pain in the ass. God, I'm glad I discovered the freezer.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was a life transforming event that day.
So then you ended up coming and hanging out with him and doing ice baths.
Yeah. So I started doing ice bath here and there with him, and then he got more ice baths, and then and I'd been doing cold showers. Paul Chek turned me on to cold water therapy. I'd actually, I studied when I first started studying fasting and natural medicine. I was living in Miami, and it was Michio Kuchi, the macrobiotic guy. Somebody turned me on to cold and hot, therapy. And so I would always finish off with cold showers. I run really hot, and lo and behold, I know it grounds you as well. So when I was living in Miami, I would take like 7 showers a day. I would go out to the outdoor showers or take one at night. I would always cool off with that. And I got into cold only, and I don't care where you are. Obviously, the cold pins and needles stuff happens where it's the ground's frozen outside. But even in Miami, when it's hotter and humid during the winter, maybe it's 70, 80 degrees, it's still colder than the atmosphere outside. It's still a little bit of a shock. So I've been doing that over the years, but then Paul Chek got me into cold only shower therapy when you wake up first thing in the morning, hot from the covers, get in. So I had been practicing that since about 2011. Har Hari comes along with the ice baths, 2017, 2018 maybe. And then some clients of mine, I filmed some of it. Some clients of mine came out from Arizona, and we ended up buying 2 more ice baths and filming that. And then I started doing men's work with the Man Tribe, and we had 2 ice baths there. And so I started doing it more regularly and filming it, and it became more popular. And at the same time, I was going through my divorce. I started doing more breath work. That was 2017, I think, as well. 2016, 2017, I started doing more breath work. And then I was like, wow, this stuff works. And then what people don't really maybe realize, because I only realized it a while back myself, is when I flip on the cameras, it's just like I just did the PIDA with him when Cow did that documentary on us, Sky Cowans. When I turn on the cameras, I'll do scary stuff. Like, okay, the cameras are rolling now. So there's a little performance anxiety. So it's like, I better do it,
Oh,
so
God.
if the cameras are rolling, man, I'll jump in an ice bath. I'll do whatever it takes, And if that's because my mission is to raise human consciousness and change all systems, we got a lot of heavy lifting to do. So how much, and the media does a lot of the heavy lifting for us. So how much awesome, anti-fragile, resilient type of stuff can I do in front of the camera and help people see how adaptable we are, see how that we can take this type of energy and transform into extremely powerful beings. And so I filmed a lot of this stuff over the years, and apparently people get a kick out of it. And then I've done so much breathing that, I feel I have some level of expertise, if you will. I understand the mechanics of breath work. I also do a lot of Qigong, so I know how to repattern the breathing mechanics, the diaphragm. And then I watch my own faulty breathing patterns, right? The mouth breathing and the neck breathing, and the tension in my neck, the panic receptors are in the neck. The sympathetic, nervous system response comes from the belly, the parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest. And I've got to cool my own jet so I can be functional in the world. I have anger issues myself from growing up, whatever perceived trauma I have in me. And so I wanted to transition through that. So, my methodology is call it pranayama, call it Kundalini, call it Wim Hof. I don't give a shit. Let's breathe. Call it shit on a stick. Yeah.
We'll be right back at you after this brief but important announcement. If you're eating a high-protein diet and you're experiencing indigestion, bloating, gas, then listen up. In fact, no matter what kind of diet you're eating, if that's going on, we got to fix it. Almost everyone suffers from bloating and gas no matter what diet they follow. Even healthy diets can completely jack up your digestion. The problem is our digestive systems don't produce enough enzymes to properly break down the foods we eat. A lot of us also don't chew properly either, which also contributes to less enzymes when breaking down your meals. If you're eating meat, fish, and eggs, enzymes are even more crucial because every time you eat cooked food, your body withdraws enzymes from your enzyme bank account, so to speak, to digest that meal. So the more cooked food you eat, and that includes almost every protein powder, the worse it gets. That's why I'm a huge fan of enzyme supplementation, and it took me years to actually find one that works. It's called Bioptimizers. Their product is called Masszymes. It's the most complete, potent digestive enzyme I've ever seen or experienced. It's got 102% more protease than any other brand, and 300 to 500% more per serving than most popular brands. And that's crucial because protein is the most complex macronutrient to break down. Left undigested protein putrefies in the gut. I know it's gross, but it does. It creates a variety of problems from bloating and inflammation and beyond. So Masszymes is the answer. If you want to see something crazy, watch this video of Masszymes dissolving a raw steak before your very eyes. Here's where you can see it. Go to masszymes.com/Luke. That's masszymes.com/Luke. Masszymes.com/Luke. And you can see the magic happen there. Chances are you're going to want to place an order after you watch that video. You can do so at the same link and make sure to enter the code Luke10 to save 10% off your order. That's masszymes.com/Luke. And now back to the interview. I find pretty much any way you breathe gives you the desired effect. It's just a matter of kind of whatever discipline happens to fit at that time. I go through phases of it. There's a couple more things I want to cover. I'm just going to preemptively announce them. One is I want to run through some of the modalities you have here at your clinic. Now, we did some B-roll stuff, and I don't know how it's going to turn out because I'm shooting everything, recording myself. It'll be the videos, I'm sure, worked. The audio was a little dodgy. So in the event that that's not heard by everyone listening to this official episode, we're going to do that. Okay. Then I want the Ripped at 50 book breakdown from Troy. I want this. I want that. And then don't let me forget. I want to touch on the 5 MAO.
5 MAO.
You guys have gotten down with, and a little other. I want some anecdotal experience of what plant medicines and these type of experiences have done for you, and then we'll kind of like tie a bow on it. So, break down some of the main modalities here at the clinic that we just ran through, because I just did a bunch of them. I'm feeling amazing. And Troy got to do a bunch of shit. So
I feel amazing.
Yeah. Cool. What can people expect from coming here?
Usually a first-time new patient, when they come in, the first thing I want to do is scan them with a cyber scan and really get a deep understanding of what they're going through right now in their physical body. All their organ systems, their immune system, glandular system, their pathologies, their psyche, really understanding the person that's sitting in front of me, because ultimately we're a whole being. We're mental, physical, and spiritual, all wrapped into one thing, right? So understanding all those different aspects of a person That's the first thing, and then they get a chance to reflect on their own what's going on, because a lot of it is just going to do that. It's going to reflect to things that they already are aware of. They have a digestive issue, they might have arthritis, they might have an autoimmune issue, and then we break it down. Like I usually spend about 2.5 hours the first time with a patient, just because I find it takes about that long to really get them to understand what's happening with them. Because most people will go to a doctor and like, oh, here's your pill, see you later. My whole thing is I want to help them get some kind of grasp of, what it's going to take for them to actually have a life transforming healing experience. Because that's what we're about. Like, it's not that I don't care about someone's symptom. I'm definitely going to help them with whatever symptom they have, but I want them to understand in a deeper way, just like what this book is talking about, like the, glyphosates and, autoimmune issues that are prevalent. Like 80% of all humans in this country have an autoimmune disease now at this point. So I have to address that right up front. Okay, what's going on? That's an immune system that's overtaxed with too many toxins, too much EMF, all these things that we're being bombarded with. And literally, like, we need strategies that we can implement today, right now in our lives, including the breathing, that's probably my biggest message I'll share with a patient. Go home and start breathing right today. Don't wait, because your life's in jeopardy, literally, because you're acidic, you're inflamed, and you're hypoxic. Those three things.
What's hypoxic?
Low oxygen. That's why we do the breathing, get the oxygen through our body, right? So those are the three things it gets down to that level, because, on a cellular level, that's what disease is. Hypoxia, inflammation, and acidity.
And the breathing lowers inflammation.
Yeah, it lowers inflammation, lowers acidity, and increases oxygen. So that's the cyber scan is like the entree into that world of understanding, and also the idea of mitochondria, and how we need to build the mitochondria, like what Jack Kruse is all about. I'm hugely proponent of what he's talking about, getting in the sun, getting in the cold. Not everybody's going to want to hear this, but that's usually when someone ends up at this place, they're ready. They're ready to get the message. So, and then at that point, I really encourage people to do the cyber scan remedy, because it's the quickest, easiest way that you can, do that will help energetically start to shift things on the quantum level. Because that's really, from all the work we've all done here, that we know the deepest level of healing is happening at the level of the quanta, the subtle energy level. And so that card that I make for the patient that they wear, that's balancing out their issue exactly to where they're calibrated at. So that's the very first thing I really want to work with the patient, is on that level. And then following up with them every 2 weeks and rescanning, because as we go through that process, the deeper issues start to emerge. So like in my case, I knew I had a knee issue when I first started doing the cyber scan. And it didn't really show up in the readings until my third round. But when that showed up and I took the remedy, literally the next day, the knee pain was gone that I'd had for years. So that was that's a big wake up thing for me. Okay, I need to do this with my patients. So even though it requires a commitment, time commitment, financial commitment, but what's your health worth? Ultimately, what we're talking about here is wealth. Health is wealth.
That's correct.
I've heard it, and you probably have heard these too, but when you work on your breathing, you're really working on your own prosperity, because ultimately the amount of air that you can bring into your body, that's going to raise your vibration. And we know the law of attraction is all about high vibration. So ultimately it's all about the breath. So and that's where, instead of just coming in, getting treated by a machine or doing any of the processes we do, you got to understand you have to work on yourself first. So that's the first orientation I do with a patient. And then the pulse then becomes like the next level of care, because that's something that they can do laying on the PEMF table to raise the mitochondrial function and grow more mitochondria in their system very quickly. Usually it takes about 50 hours of doing pulse to get to the maximum amount of charge, voltage in the cells. One of the things I learned from Paul Webb, the guy who created the system, we went and did a training in Atlanta when we first got these systems. And he pulled me off to the side because he knew I was a yogi. He's like, I got to tell you what this system really does. I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be interesting. And basically what he said was that, because he had spent thousands of hours on the machine, so he knew just from his own experience. Basically what he said was that the longer you spend on that machine, just laying on it, getting the treatment, it's erasing the trauma that's in your cells from the time of conception all the way to the time of conception. So that was, when he told me that, I was like, oh my God, this is like an essential, super important thing for people to get, is that they're erasing all the trauma. I mean, I don't think you can do better than that. You know, ayahuasca does that too, right? But some people aren't ready for ayahuasca. So it's good to do just PEMF, you know?
And on that note, for those listening, we did do an episode with a couple of the guys from Pulse Centers, the PEMF device that Har Hari is referring to. So we'll put that in the show notes. I don't have the episode number on hand, but I did cover about an hour and a half on that to get into the science, because it's incredible. I've used it a lot. Yeah,
it's profound.
It's wild.
So then, you know, that, and then the other thing we do, like based off the readings we get on the cyber scan, let's say somebody's got like an autoimmune disease, which is really common. They can go and do the biocharger with the autoimmune support program, or whatever condition they have.
So the biocharger is a Tesla coil?
Yeah, it's the Tesla coil with the Rife frequencies. He has one. So we
did a show on that too. Again, don't remember the episode number.
In the show notes.
But I'm deficient on nootropics at the moment, so the episode's number elude me. But I saw your biocharger in there. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Because people ask me a lot, dude, I mean, you know, some of these things, they're priced for a practitioner or a clinic. And then you have some well-heeled people that might be able to afford a $13,000 biocharger or the $40,000 pulse centers. But that's one of the reasons I like highlighting people like you and what you do, is because there are people that haven't stretched their abundance capacity to that level yet, but really want them. But anyone can make not anyone, but many people, if not most, can make sacrifices in their lifestyle now to be able to afford to see someone like you.
Yeah, just to come to the, and we have a really good, I mean, we tailor our sessions and our programs to almost anyone. I mean, we've done pro bono work for cancer patients, and, you know, we're really about service. Because, I mean, the way I look at it, my life and my mission is to serve. And the money comes. It just comes. I'm not worried about the money. The money's always there, and some patients are more prosperous than others. But our whole goal is just to serve people, no matter where they're at. You know, and even in this context of just sharing information, that's serving people big time, right? We're plugging them in. So the biocharger then is a great adjunct thing. And then we have the plasma field chamber, which is a GANS device that comes from originally from the Kesh Foundation, which you guys can look that up, but that's a profound therapy. I'm going to tell you separately. I don't even want to say on air, but just to say profound healing. Just going into a chamber. It's like an MRI machine.
Is that what I went into?
Yeah. How was that? Did you?
I went out. I started lucid dreaming within about 5 minutes.
You did?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so
you went all theta,
totally, and then you know when you do those twitches because you see something in your dream that you think is real, then you wake up a little bit, and then I went back in, and then I went for a damn good nap. What was that? 20, 30 minutes?
Yeah, you were in there for a good time. Yeah. But that's a very powerful therapy for people who are holding trauma. I had a guy who was an ex-Navy SEAL who'd been having insomnia for 20 years. Every night for 20 years, insomnia. He went in there for an hour, and he called me the next night. He's like, dude, you don't understand what that thing is. It totally healed my insomnia. So that was huge.
So this plasma chamber, the way you described it, when you look at it, it does look like kind of a wooden or bamboo kind of MRI, like a tube that then a bed slides into, and you're encased in this long tube, and then there's smaller clear tubes that go all the way around it.
That has the fluid in it.
Right. So you can see through it and you can see out. It's not like claustrophobic, but you said that inside those tubes are different fluids going clockwise. One fluid's going clockwise, the other one counterclockwise and spinning around you.
Yeah. So that creates like a Faraday cage around your entire energy field. So it's kind of like going into a womb. It's actually, that's the way they explain it. The foundation talks about going back into the mother's womb. And so your body has a chance to fully rest and just recuperate. So it's just
Could one just, if you were able to afford one yourself and have room for it in your house, could one just sleep inside that thing?
Really? Totally. Oh my God.
That's the next level. Yeah, just make that your bed.
I went in there one night after I broke my foot a couple months ago, and I went into the chamber that night and I called the inventor. I said, dude, does this thing help a broken bone? He goes, it'll help it set properly. That's what he told me. And I just lay down in it and I fell asleep for like 5 hours. And I was pretty shaken up from having a fresh broken bone. And when I woke up, I was so refreshed. It was like there was no break. I mean, it was broken still, but I felt like nothing had happened. Like the trauma was gone. It was remarkable. So we have that. And then you got to experience the Pandora Star, which is another very powerful psychedelic type of experience that kind of replicates ayahuasca, not quite as extreme, but you get the full, psychedelic experience, which is like a whole brain activation, basically, that helps with releasing trauma, but also activating all the different receptors in the brain. So you're getting this kind of deeper kind of experience. So one of the things I noticed just recently, and why I just started bringing this thing out, because we have so many therapies, it's almost too much to keep track of, but I pulled it out after this coronavirus thing happened because I was like, stressed out from dealing with it. And I laid underneath it and came out, and I felt like I was free. Like the matrix energy was just washed out of me completely, and I felt like a kid. So that's another, just a really powerful thing people can do to kind of just break out of the, really literally the matrix we're being controlled under right now. And it's just something I've observed in myself. And I was like, wow, I need to start telling people about this, because this is like a major thing to help you click out of the, this oppression, literally. I mean, that's the only way to explain it, man. We're being oppressed as a planet.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a keen sense of that driving over here today.
It's been relieved.
It was just on the way here, it was such like a post-apocalyptic vibe. Like a lot of stores are boarded up and
it's interesting. It's like
it's weird.
I heard a psychic recently. I've been really studying what's going on right now, and this one lady was saying that the planet itself is like in a cocoon, like a caterpillar goes in a cocoon and then turns into a butterfly.
That makes sense.
And it's kind of like that's what's going on right now with the whole Earth.
That sounds good. I like that.
It's like global metamorphosis.
That's correct.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've been praying for this, and I've been calling for it. I said for many, many years, I started drinking ayahuasca in 2006 in the Amazon. I studied all the Mayan temples and Incan temples, and I went to through a lot of self-discovery, and I've been saying ever since 2012 isn't it? That's just the portal that we went through. That's basically the timekeeper, but we're still going to go through that energy, and I could feel the quantum leap coming and closer and closer. I could taste it. And then I said, it's coming. And then 2020 was coming. And there's something special about 2020 inner vision. And I said, 2020 is the year. This is happening. And I think astrologically, towards the end of the year, we actually enter into the full Aquarian age, astrologically. And so, and sure enough, man, and everybody's been saying in my lectures and workshops over the years, that'll never happen. And, we'll never get off oil, not in my lifetime. We'll always have money in these fiat currencies, even though the history shows that fiat currencies only last so long. People say, it'll never change. And I didn't know how it was going to shake out. I certainly didn't know that this coronavirus was coming, even though there's been patents and other people working on this stuff. Like, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't get the memo. And then next thing you know, woo, everything broke loose. Within 1 week, the pollution in Los Angeles has cleared up.
It's beautiful. And you noticed the trippy thing, and I want to get back. I want to wrap up the clinic too. Have you noticed, you guys, that when this thing started, the chemtrails immediately disappeared? They stopped spraying.
I saw that. They'll come back a little bit.
I've not seen one. Actually, no, that's not true. I saw one day where there was a couple big ones. The day before
they clamped everything down, there was a huge chemtrail thing. Oh, the day before.
Like the last few days, I haven't seen any. And I've been aware of them since like the mid-90s. That's when I first started seeing them in LA, just tic-tac-toe all day long, all across the sky, every which way.
Yeah, but it's definitely dissipated a lot less.
But it's weird, it's just like, why now, guys? Like, another time it happened actually, because I'm psycho with it. I always say I'm like Ray Liotta in Goodfellas, and he's high on coke and the black helicopters are after him. That's me looking for chemtrails and 5G towers. Legit. But the weird thing is, say what you will, and I'm sure there's a lot of sides to this Orange Man story. But when the current leader of the country was put into office, the chemtrails stopped for like a good 3-4 months, like not one time. And I was like, yeah, everyone's pissed at this guy, but at least he stopped that thing, and then it started up again. So my dreams were crushed. But
ISIS stopped too.
Well, I thought
people didn't realize.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, there's been a lot of pedophiles arrested too. But I thought, what I thought at the time? I thought, well, this is a guy that's fiscally motivated, and I'm sure that's a huge waste of money. The spraying.
He was shutting everything down, including the CDC. He cut the whole CDC program just before the pandemic.
Oh, really?
Well, I think actually right after he got in, he was like, oh, we don't need that pandemic program. Let's get rid of it.
Well, I hope he shuts down the chemtrails, because I'd probably vote for anyone if they stopped chemtrails and 5G. But then, fucker, he just signed into some order that like helps telecommunications companies roll out more 5G, because he's like super pro 5G. Did you see that? Just a couple, like last week.
I've heard inklings. I don't follow every nuance of what he's doing. I follow the QAnon posts because I really like those and pray that there is going to be a big shift. But the one thing that I noticed, and it came in his Twitter, was the Kofefi thing. You know anything about that?
Yeah, what was that?
So the Kofefi thing.
I thought he mispronounced coffee or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of speculation.
Kofefi. I heard about that.
It was a couple of years ago. It was a whole like Orange Man meme.
So I've heard recently that is the antidote for 5G ionization, because it's cobalt. Fe is iron, right? So two iron molecules and a cobalt, and it protects against the ionization, something like that. Look into it. I don't know.
Okay.
Everything's a mystery right now. Yeah. But I did know that the quantum leap was coming. I do know that we are headed towards the light. God is on the planet. God is with us. Heaven is on earth.
Thank you for the reminder.
It's time for us to realize that, call it forth, whether Trump saves the day or not, or shuts down the swamp and the pedophile rings or any of that stuff. I don't know, but I do know that we're heading towards the light, and we are the victory in the light. And people that have woken up, because I didn't always live an austere life. I wasn't a complete tyrant and an asshole, but I did, I wasn't living the life I am now. And I'm aligned with many people, Dr. Har Hari, you, Luke, are some of those people. And there's many people here in Los Angeles, the city of angels, that are working towards the transformation of consciousness. It is coming. It is here. This is indicative of more of the things that I saw. I saw a vision in 2006 in the Amazon that humanity makes it from the precipice of ecological disaster, when I'm seeing the whole rainforest being cut down through the tributaries and then up to the sawdust of the mountains of sawdust that was in Iquitos, Peru, and then the 2x4s come up to the Home Depot. And the oil exploration that I studied with John Perkins' work, I saw our demise. And so, but I saw the fact that we make it. Humanity makes it was the vision that I saw. And it's been unfolding ever since. And so these are good times, man. These are really good times.
I agree.
Yep.
I feel like that was like a great closing statement, but I'm not done.
Okay.
So you ran us through is there any modalities you left?
There was two. The laser.
Yeah, the laser. And then, what about just the adjustments and the hypervolts and all this kind of stuff? Because you do a lot of really cool body work, like the mechanics of the body stuff too.
Yeah. So basically then, with patients, especially with any kind of chronic degenerative joint disease like disc or shoulder, anything that's where your body isn't repairing itself properly. That laser that we showed earlier is literally, I call it the godlight, because when I experienced it myself 2 months ago, it was fresh off of getting my foot broken, and I was in a considerable amount of pain. I could barely walk. I was on a boot, and I had them treat my foot. And I'm telling you, within 5 minutes, it was like I had zero broken foot. And they're like, be careful because your foot's still broken. You're just not going to feel the pain because it took the inflammation completely down. But that laser, not only does it get rid of pain, but it actually stimulates the stem cells. It's like getting a stem cell injection, but it takes about 10 to 15 rounds on any chronic thing.
What's that laser called?
It's called an epoch laser.
Epoch laser.
It's a class 4. It's got 17 years of clinical research behind it. That's why I met the inventor. The guy, he was actually the inventor for that whole class of lasers. He's a physicist. Real genius guy.
Cool.
So really, really excited about using that with patients.
I am too. I'm coming down here, dude.
Yeah.
I got very hopeful when you were working on Troy's shoulder and you're explaining it earlier. I thought, man, this might be the thing that could help my hip, get it unstuck from its
I had a woman
lock.
Yesterday who had a hip issue, and she texted me this morning. She goes, I'm 100%. One treatment. I was like, awesome. Oh my God.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, I used Hypervolt. Of course, the Hypervolt is a very powerful tool for unlocking the myofascia. And I use something called Sigma Instrument, which is a computerized adjusting where it goes vertebrae by vertebrae and it measures the integrity of each segment of the whole spine. And then it uses a vibration to correct each vertebra. And then, of course, I do the traditional, chiropractic.
Yeah, we did that spine thing a couple years ago.
Yeah, that's when I first got it. Yeah,
that was very cool. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I still use that. That's definitely a big part of what I do with people. And and of course, the Healy. We did a little bit with the Healy. The Healy is it's just my little precious thing that I love. It's so small. It's only this big, but you can literally heal anything with it. It's so awesome. When I first found out about it, it was a patient friend of mine sent out she posted it on Facebook about this guy who'd had early onset dementia, and he had gone to the Amen Clinic, and his brain had holes in it. They look like Swiss cheese.
I'm familiar with such scans. I have had one. Yeah,
and he used the Healy for 2 months every day. Went back and they rescanned him, and 90% of his brain had regrown on the scan. They said they'd never seen anything like it. So I was like, oh my God, I got to get my hands on one of those. And we were lucky because right now you can't get those because they come from Germany and everything's shut down. So nothing is coming from Germany. I got it before the first of the year through a Hong Kong route. And so, but they'll be available probably in the summer by the time that they open things up. So,
cool. Well, awesome. And give us the name and website of your business here right now so I don't forget later.
It's really simple. THU Heal. THUheal.com.
Okay, cool. And that's very your simple. Instagram too for the practice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So you gave a great drop the mic moment a few moments ago, Troy, but I'm going to have you pick up the mic again. And for those watching the video, you can see the cover here of Troy's book, Ripped at 50. And as I said earlier, I gave it a
hashtag Ripped at 50.
Hashtag Ripped at 50. Thank you. A journey to self-love. And you follow this guy. It's like, Jesus Christ. I mean, the physical thing is one thing, right? So I'm envious a little bit that you're that in shape, but I also don't want to work that hard.
Well, that's the illusion, right?
It is.
Because the 9 pillars in there tells you don't have to work as hard.
Okay,
it becomes compound when you put them all together.
Okay, good. So give us the basic rundown on the book, because I did give it a nice peruse, and I was like, oh shit, you're hitting on all the points here. If I were to create a comprehensive kind of lifestyle guide, it would look very similar.
Cool. Well,
I'm just down with all the stuff you're teaching.
Awesome. Yeah, we're on the same page. And so it's a book on holistic health. The foreword's written by the great Paul Chek. He's probably one of the top sports fitness professionals and rehab specialists on planet Earth. He's the one who brought the Swiss balls and core function and Paleolithic mentalities around how your core functions and the inflammation and the leaky gut and how that's probably important for you to get up and climb up on top of a Swiss ball and balance yourself with your stabilizers, etc. So I stood on the Swiss ball for the cover. And a lot of the technology that I got from Paul and studying with him over the years, I was able to put all together, even though I've been studying for 31 years. I've been juicing, practicing fasting for 31 years. So it has all my stories from the modeling industry. I was a Versace model. I was sitting in Milan. I had digestive issues. I've since realized that, your curse is your gift. There's two forces on this planet, yin and yang, positive and negative, up, down. And it's the balance of two. All the ancient sages have said, balance is the key, walk the razor's edge. And so I had a lot of anger issues that developed into alcoholism, and I was trying to self-medicate and balance myself that way. That created a lot of imbalances. I found my way through meditation, yoga, ayahuasca, plant medicine, and then, of course, having a family has been really the biggest part of my spiritual development. And all the stories are in the book. It starts out with Tupac Shakur and Donatella Versace and the Milan shows in 96, 2 months before Tupac died. And then it moves through my work in the Amazon and then black mold exposure and how my body broke down. I had autoimmune. And then it moves through my divorce and remarriage. And at Rhythmia and on ayahuasca.
Did you guys literally get married while on the medicine?
Yeah, on Yahe night.
Oh, God, I hated that night.
On the last night.
I fucking hated that night, bro.
Why do you hate it?
I just did not. That medicine, my
was it
being...
a specific type of medicine?
Yeah.
It drenches the bile ducts.
Yeah, it was the cat from Colombia, I believe it was. And it just...
Taita, Juanito.
The minute I drank that stuff, I was like, nope, don't like it,
Once it's in, it's in.
And there's no rewind on that. But, and it's funny because I'm good at not resisting. I'm good at, it's hard to it sounds so... it lacks humility to say I'm really good at surrendering, but I've been through a lot of shit, so I'm able to surrender into some discomfort, man. I mean, sit in the ice bath for 20 minutes and just be like, yeah, okay, this is it. But that medicine, I really had a hard time surrendering to because there was no discernible psychoactive effect. It was just sickness with no nothing happening. I'm just sitting there bored, frustrated, sick, and that was not the time I would have wanted to get married. I would have been a grumpy groom.
So it's not a psychedelic effect?
No, it's supposed to be. And for most people,
I had
it is.
3 cups myself.
Maybe you know what? That's the thing. I feel like in hindsight, perhaps the move would have been cup 3. Because 2 cups, I was like, nah, nothing happening. And just kind of laid there bummed for 12 hours,
Yeah, the shaman said, the medicine works. Just don't miss your neck. Get it down get it down you. And so... So yeah, you mentioned my spirit animal, Keith Richards, recently. And so when I read his autobiography, I was very impressed on how much of a moving train the thing was. It was incredible until he got off heroin, and then I just threw the book away. It wasn't as fun anymore. But so when I sat down to write this book, I was like, that's what I want. I want a document. I wrote the how-to component, and I was like, God, the world doesn't need another how-to diet and health and wellness fitness book. And so and then I started to tell my stories and to really propel it through and then have the 9 pillars of health, the 9 foundation principles or first principles, they call it in physics. You got to have a foundation to build anything on top of. And so it has the components of nature, relationships, dream, purpose, and legacy is very important for me. I think as for men, we need that North Star, that direction. And it's been said, when you have a dream big enough, there's no need for a crisis. And so having that dream is very important. That's a big part of my work and men's work as well. And so it's a big part of the book. It's the first chapter. And then it moves through the rest of everything, breathing mechanics, thinking, how the mind works, my faulty thinking growing up, the things I went after when I was younger: hydration, nutrition, sleep, movement, really getting those foundation principles. There's no fancy stuff in there. I practice some esoteric stuff like Har Hari and I were talking about, some more advanced stuff, and obviously the healing mechanisms that he has here. But there's, in my book, until you have your foundation principles met, there's no need for the fancy stuff. Get good sleep, get optimal sleep, get good hydration, get clean.
That's 90% of it.
Good nutrition.
Yeah.
So the book.
And the hardest thing to get people to do, I'm sure you've realized, people email me like, what's the biohack? I don't have the money for that. I'm like, money? You don't need money. Breathwork, watch sun gaze at sunrise, sunset. I give them all the free shit. And they're like, yeah, no.
Yeah, but I need the magic pill.
What supplement? I'm like, you said you don't want the supplement. You don't have the money. Okay,
that's expensive.
Yeah, but the best
actually,
the best health
water
practices really are
fast
free.
is the number one.
That's the
dry
cheapest,
fast.
the cheapest and most effective. Yeah.
So I came out of the jungle in 2006, having this vision that humanity makes it, and I put up all this exotic footage online. I had my child was born in water, and I gained some notoriety, but ultimately nobody really gave a shit about the environment. And I was just like, wow, how can I affect change? So I've crystallized my own dream and vision. My mission and purpose on this planet, my legacy, is to raise human consciousness and change all systems. My vision is clean air, water, soil, and equitable systems for all mankind. If people don't know what equitable systems mean, I've got a one-way ticket to Libya, Syria, Iraq, Darfur, anywhere that has natural resources that are coveted. And so that's my mission. This is my end around, instead of just getting on YouTube as an early responder in 2006 and sharing the stories and the exotic footage of the shamans in the rainforest. Nobody really gave a shit. Okay, this is my end around. This is how I want to save the planet. My mentors told me you have to chunk it down, meet people at where they're at. 70% of the American people are obese or overweight right now, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, autoimmune diseases, cancers 1 and 2, diabetes 33%. So we have serious issues. So this is the antidote for that. And now we have internet marketing. I don't have to wait for a publisher to help me out or anything. I can just go out and meet and reach the people exactly where they're at. And so that's my mission. And once the book's out and we get the next phase of marketing, which will be the reviews of the book. So anybody out there that's listening, I encourage you to read the book, and we'll get that out to more people. And then I'm running for president of planet Earth this year in 2020. And so my platform is free energy, gift economy, self-care education, and permaculture. Those are the things that will heal humanity. And
it's so simple.
It's so simple. Clean air, water, soil, equitable systems for all mankind. That's my platform, along with my solutions.
Excellent. How many times have you guys done 5-MAO, DMT, the toad medicine each? And give me a brief overview of some of the experience or takeaways as a result.
Har Hari?
Well, I did it about, I think it's a year and a half ago now, I think. The reason I did it, I'll say the excuse, let's say, was for a patient, because I had a patient who was a dying patient. She had a tumor the size of a 9-month pregnant woman, a pancreatic tumor. End-stage glyphosate poisoning, by the way, an Iowa farmer, victim of the glyphosate debacle. And I said, listen, we've done everything. She basically said, I'm an open book. You do whatever you want with me. I'm dying, basically. And I'm like, okay, well, the one thing, we need to go as deep as we can go, because you don't have a whole lot of time left. So I said, let's have a full death experience, because there's a good chance you're going to get some useful information from going out of your body and having a full death experience before you die. Because that's what 5-MeO is. It's a full death experience. And so that was my excuse to bring her to the shaman. And so she went first. And, it was interesting, because when she came out of it, we were like super anticipating. What happened? Like, what did you learn? She was just crying. She goes, I just let go of something. I don't know what it was. And that was it. Like, she couldn't remember anything that happened. And that's somewhat common sometimes with this medicine, because it's so intense. So my turn was next, and I knew it was going to take me away. And so I prepared myself by doing Wim Hof breathing, and I just intuitively felt like I needed to do that to reduce the stress of going into that state of death, basically. And so by the time I was done with the Wim Hof breathing, I was pretty good. I was pretty relaxed. I thought, okay, I can do this. And I'd been prepped. I, saw some YouTube videos that explained what the process was. That you're gonna die when you take it. It's much different than ayahuasca or any other psychedelic, because the psychedelics, generally you're having an experience, right? I'm seeing things, right? There's you that's seeing things. With 5-MeO, the you part of it gets taken away. So there's no you anymore. So, when I took the vape, because it's in an Oregon gas piston type of thing, and it's a pure
inert
gas, and it's we took the form that was the pure 5-MeO molecule, which is much stronger than just the straight, like the toad version. So basically within 3 seconds of inhaling this substance, you die. You're gone. This is basically like a death. And what I experienced immediately after that, well, I'm not going to say because the I that's sitting here was literally gone. But the consciousness of the universe was aware of the Big Bang. So for some reason, I don't know why, but I had this awareness of the Big Bang, like of the creation of galaxies. And so the way I interpret it is I went outside of the time and space, dimensions of time and space, and was able to observe it from a timeless space. That's the only way I can explain what I experienced.
Makes perfect sense.
And so I was observing the timeline of creation, and then I started seeing galaxies forming, and then at that point it was almost like I was in a Star Trek episode. Warp speed through the galaxies. And then the next thing I knew, I was actually thinking about the Earth. And I kind of just like asked the question, well, what about the Earth? Because I was so distant from the Earth at that point. And I was like, well, the Earth doesn't even exist. And like, I had that thought. And the next thing I know, I'm back in my body. Like all I could say for like an hour was, what the fuck? Like I couldn't even talk. I was so blown away from what I had just experienced. And it took me at least a year and a half to, I would say, like integrate it somewhat back into just everyday reality, basically. Yeah.
So it was a net positive.
I think so. Yeah. The thing that I think the takeaway message though, like once I was back in the physical body, and it was like the biggest thing was that the Earth itself is an organism in its own consciousness, and everything on the Earth is this one being. So you and me and him, we're all the same being. We're just in like separate entity bodies, but literally we're the same being. And I had like a kinesthetic realization of that, I think, when I was back in my body. And this is the last thing I'll say about it. So I was driving home after this experience, right? And someone cuts me off in traffic, and I'm about ready to, just instinctively flip the guy off, right? But then I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, that guy's me. And so that was just a weird kind of it's like, whoa, like the connection, it was so palpable, because there was like a thin layer between, like what this individual is and everything, So, yeah, phenomenal experience. Totally phenomenal.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
How many times have you done it?
Well, that was the only, I would say, okay, so there's two different ways of doing it. That's called a deep dive, and I've only done one. But then since then, I've done what are called bottoms up, where you do a smaller dose and you do it with another person. So I've done many of those.
And it's more tantric style.
Yeah, you're looking in the person of the eyes, and then you merge. And that is a profound experience.
That's some serious stuff.
Profound. So I love doing the bottoms up work. I do that with my patients. I'll bring them to the shaman and we'll sit together and just merge. And it's just incredible.
It's next level for sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's also with the synthesized version as well. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
it's much easier to use it, I think, that way.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Rather than the, toad semen or whatever.
I mean, the toad works. It's just you have to do a lot more of it, I think.
I just, I'm picturing that paste. I remember I've never done it. That's why I'm so curious about it.
Yeah.
It's on my, it's on my to-do list, so to speak. But the combo frog, I remember that the slimy little, it's like powder by the time you get it, but it was just thinking about, wow, this like kind of slime that comes off the toad or the frog in that case. And then they dry it and put it in you. And it's a very interesting concept of medicine, that these little amphibians have that much power over a big ass human being. It's just
Vice did a good report on it with Patient Zero, or the first guy that kind of figured it out.
Oh, with the 5-MeO?
Cool. Yeah. Vice did a really good thing on it, going back to the origins of who invented it. It was like an investigative. Vice has 2 things on it, so you can watch that.
I watched the one with that Hamilton kid where he goes and does it in the desert and flops around in the river and shit.
Yeah, and then they did another.
Maybe that was on the Hamilton show, not even Vice. Maybe it was on his Amazon show. He does every drug. Per episode he'll do like the ketamine one, this one, and that one, and.
Yeah, that was more experiential. And then they did an investigative journalist of the origins of it. And one of Dr. Andrew Wheel's friends kind of figured it out. And there used to be a little pamphlet.
But do you think it goes back into ancient times, though? From
I think there may be components of that, but in modern times, it came from this guy in the 80s. And there's a Vice piece on that as well. You can look at it. It's pretty fascinating.
I think I saw that, the little pamphlet where they talk about how you harvested, and it's like a little how-to. Yeah, I did see that. That was a trip. Yeah,
and he was friends with Andrew Wheel, and he contacted Andrew Wheel, and Andrew Wheel's like, I don't know,
right?
Tried to distance himself from psychedelics, but
so what? And briefly, we will wrap it up here for all of those listening and participating. It's been a long day, but what's been your experience with that particular medicine? Because I know you're quite the cosmonaut, and we've had some conversations, and I imagine one of these days we'll end up in the same location in some kind of a journey. What's been your experience with that one?
Well, first of all, let's just reference for people listening at home that Rick Strassman wrote a scientific document. It's pretty thick about clinical studies on DMT. It's called The Spirit Molecule. So there's a lot of research on that. I think
the documentary.
Yeah, Joe Rogan did the voiceover on the documentary. So it's out there already. There's clinical research on this. And so very powerful medicine comes in. Within about 20 minutes, you're done from the experience approximately. But when you go to the 0 point, there is no time. So being inside of it can feel long.
Like eternity.
Yeah. And so with my experience, I had a couple of cosmonaut, astronaut, cowboys that tried to help me go through enlightenment. I think this was 2014. This was the second time. I had one very powerful shaman I tried it with in 2011. And I don't think I did enough to go all the way, as they say.
Yeah, deep dive.
Had a good experience.
Yeah.
Definitely. I did it in... I did it and I thought, wow, I spent all that money to fly down to the Amazon.
You're doing 5-MeO? That was a 5-MeO?
Yeah, I was doing 5-MeO. And here I had this experience much closer to home, no puking, a lot less work. And it was a very therapeutic experience, although I didn't go to the origins. I kept on, what happens is I'd go into my trauma patterns and I'd start trying to do yoga and unwinding a lot of my physical trauma inside my body, which happened after the deep dive as well. But I'll get to that in a moment. But I would wake up from the experience and kind of get back into my body, like I wouldn't want to go there. I was just trying to unwind the trauma in my spine and left side of my body, really, and just doing a lot of yoga. And all the shamans that I was working with, they were like, "Hey, Troy, listen, just lay still, just stay down, man. Just surrender." And I was like,
let go.
Let go. Yeah, that's a good one. Let go, man.
Let go. And
so I wouldn't let go. And another guy came in 2014, this Burning Man guy. And, he's like trying to get me enlightened. He's like, look, we you can get enlightened on this stuff, but we might not have enough medicine for you to do it. So just lay the fuck down and just take your medicine. And so I would literally go, okay, this time I'm going to do it. Right. And I'd smoke it. And then I would lay out sprawl starfish, right? Go. And then I'd wake up and start twisting. So that didn't work, but I had the mystical experience, and it was kind of, interesting experience. But it wasn't until I worked with Dr. Har Hari's guy, and I did the deep dive, and I prayed. I was in fear. I had done it with Har Hari's guy the year before with a client. Magic happened with this. I will share this. So I'm in my divorce. I'm a year into my divorce. I work with a client. Client comes down, very high-powered executive client. I coached her a lot. She came in for a private retreat I do here in LA. We worked for 2 or 3 days on all the other foundational stuff. And then I took her down to see the shaman on the last day. And she went for her deep dive, very successful. And then he talked about this bottoms-up stuff, where you stare into the other person's eye, you do the tantra, and you stay present with less medicine, but you stay very present while this whole powerful experience is happening. And he said, for people that have a problem going all the way and surrendering, this is very effective. And I came out of that medicine experience. It was extremely powerful, and it was extremely healing for her. She had some probably sexual Catholic kind of, overrides going on in her consciousness. And she was able to get free from that. Very powerful experience. She actually came back to California for some more healing, and really powerful experience. So I took away from that, something told me. I was a year into my divorce with my wife, and we kept needling each other, texting, do this, don't tell me what to do, fuck you, and it was just back and forth. That's in the book too. I don't know if you got to that part, but
did you put the actual text in there? That would be dope if you could screen grab the text, and
close enough.
Then show the wedding.
Yeah. Love wins. So the fact of the matter, I came out of there and I go, whatever is 50% of me going into that text message that ends up in a fuck you, take that out. Like whatever it is, just take it out. And it's really hard when you're playing with that spouse where that's your game of, oh, you victimized me, and the perpetrator victimize, game, and it goes back and forth and control and manipulation. And so I just said, all right, let me just take my 50% gasoline out of this fire. Okay. And, about a month later, we had a conversation, and she was being snippy with me. And I said, well, do you see the difference in me? She said, yeah, but don't expect anything from me. And I was like, all right, okay. And 2 months after that conversation, she started drinking ayahuasca. And she came to me and asked for my forgiveness for blaming her. She blamed me for everything, right? And I thought that day would never come. So lots of healing with psychedelics. Then a few months after that, we went down for my total surrender and deep dive
with the guy.
Yeah, with the same guy, and going down there. So this is death. Your nervous system, your soul knows that this is ego death. This is something knows. And I go, okay, Troy, you do the ice baths, you do all this. You've been to the Amazon, you drank the ayahuasca. How bad could it be? And at this time, going through my divorce, I'd never really had a lot of prayer technology, but I really built a relationship with my heart and the divine. And I just said, protect me. Called on Archangel Michael and Gabriel and all the brothers and the white light and the blue light and the whole nine. And I was just like driving over, to the space and on my journey to go see the shaman. And I just got clear on my intentions and my prayers. And I said, I'm going to surrender. I'm going to go. Because the time all the way back in 2011, I just didn't surrender. 2014, I didn't surrender. So I've done it about a handful of maybe 15 times, but never had that full experience. Well, this time I went, and I became the sum total of the all. And the whole vibration of the universe, I could just hear, and I was it. I felt it. And I became everything. And it was so profound. The shaman said I had my mouth wide open, and I was just like, wow. My eyes were wide open. I couldn't see anything. And he said my eyes and my mouth were just wide open going, wow. And so
it's an amazing experience.
It was such an amazing experience.
Yeah.
And then I came out of it, and it was the same thing of kind of unwinding my spine and doing all my trippy yoga stuff. And I remember like processing a little bit. My wife was there to witness. The shaman was there. And I processed a little bit of it vocally. And when I was down and kind of coming back to consciousness, my hands started unwinding and I started doing the shaking in my knees. Kind of like if you ever studied TRE, trauma release therapy, where you move your pelvis. Animals shake it off when they get off, right?
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of people when they take it, their whole body starts shaking.
I had that happen in a different type of medicine journey. Yeah, really weird.
So the
involuntary too, just for hours, just crazy.
Yeah. So that's kind of what happened to me as well for at least another hour. But TRE, basically, you get into a bridge pose and then you shake your legs back and forth, and eventually those muscles become exhausted, and then your nervous system is ready to unwind all the trauma that we protect inside of our body, and that unwinds. And that's the thing around TRE. And I found myself doing spontaneous remission of something like TRE. My legs was shaking, my hands was like all of that stuff. And then I came up and I talked to my wife for a little bit and unwound a little bit physically, but I was still there. And then my neck started going back and forth and I started shaking and grunting, and it was amazing, man. And actually now I've developed that into my drunken monkey qigong. And so it's just in there. Wherever there's tightness in my body, I just feel like getting into it and just shaking and so yeah, it was a magical experience. And then I think I did some bottoms up with my wife, and that was very healing. And that was.
Were you able to hold the gaze the whole time while you were doing it?
I was, but she couldn't hold it.
It was harder for her.
And then she thinks she had too much medicine. It's hard to gauge that medicine.
Yeah.
But I've done the bottoms up quite a few other times without. But that was the major deep dive that I went. That's the only deep dive I've done.
Trust me, one is like pretty much all you wanted to.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed that you weren't like, yeah, it was profound. So next weekend I went back and, it was like, that's the end of the chapter.
It put me into an existential journey where I just started studying quantum physics and astrophysics, because I was like, what did I just experience? It's like, they must know about this in physics, right? Like Big Bang Theory and all. I mean, because I was experiencing the Big Bang. And apparently they say the Big Bang's happening all the time in some universe, right? So
one can hope. Well, gentlemen, it's been quite a day.
Yeah.
I think we can probably put a nice bow on this. I, as usual, got every possible nugget of wisdom and entertainment possible, I think. And, when I see the recorder hit 2, I feel like, okay, we probably did something that'll benefit someone here. So,
yeah.
I want to thank you for your book, #RippedAt50, Troy.
A Journey to Self-Love.
Journey to Self-Love.
Subtitle.
And all that you're doing in the world. You're inspiring many. And Har Hari, it's great to see you again and get to see the expansion of your business.
By the way, this manifested a month after that journey, this whole place. It just kind of landed in my hands. I was like, whoa.
Wow.
So it was a cosmic expansion, literally, that kind of opened this whole space up.
Well, I'm glad the stars finally aligned, and thank you for your persistence in inviting me over here. And what a perfect time to do it when the world's kind of shut down at the moment. And here we are, alive and well, thriving, doing awesome, helping turn people on to different ideas. So with that, we'll call it an episode. In closing,
thank you, Luke, by the way. I want to offer a lot of gratitude. Love your work. Your work has helped me reach a lot of your audience as well. And very grateful for that. Very grateful for the work that you're doing. And so thank you so much for having me back on the show. I appreciate that.
Hell yeah, brother. Give us websites. I know you mentioned yours, but we'll do another round of the website so people can find more of you and social media handles and stuff, and then we'll close it.
Certified Health Nut all over the internet, social media, TroyCasey.com, and the book is on RippedAt50.com. I think it's on TroyCasey.com right now as well.
Cool.
So I'm easy to find.
Okay.
And I'm THUheal.com, Dr. Har Hari. You can find me all over the place.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. All right. Well, let's call it a wrap then. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So there you go, folks. Another groundbreaking deep dive episode of the Lifestylist Podcast. Man, thank you so much for joining me. It gives me, as always, great pleasure to not only conduct these conversations, but to record them and share them with you. Before we wrap up this episode, I want to let you know, in case you haven't heard the news, I'm about to launch my first online class. It's called the EMF Home Safety Masterclass. And this is an incredible training that's going to teach you everything you could ever want to know about how to find and fix the EMF in your home and work environment. To get on the wait list and save yourself $100, go to this URL, lukestory.com/EMF Masterclass. Again, you're going to get on the wait list by entering your name and email when the class is released in the next couple weeks. You're going to get an email with your $100 discount code. That's lukestory.com/EMF Masterclass, or you can just shoot me a text to the number 44222. In the body of the text, use the word EMF Masterclass. Again, that's EMF Masterclass to the number 44222 on any US phone, or simply go to lukestory.com/EMF Masterclass. Now, on to our official sponsors, man. I want to thank Just Thrive. They make a fantastic probiotic. You can find that at justthrivehealth.com. Well, they have a bunch of products, actually, but the probiotic's the one that I take on the daily. And at justthrivehealth.com, you can get 15% off with the code Luke15. And I'd like to thank our friends at Four Sigmatic. You can find that at foursigmatic.com/Luke Story. The code there is The Lifestylist for 15% off. And then our friends over at Bioptimizers. These guys will fix your digestion straight up. They make some incredible enzyme products that have revolutionized my eating and digesting game. Go to masszymes.com/Luke. That's MASSZYMES. masszymes.com/Luke. And you're going to save 10% over there with the code Luke10. At lukestory.com/store, you will not only find every single one of our sponsors and those exclusive discount codes, but also everything else I recommend in terms of health and wellness. So everything I use now currently in my own life, or everything that I have used in the past that I think is worth representing, you can find at my online store. And it's a great place for you to not only get discounts, but for you to also become educated. I've started to add tons of new videos, like deep dive educational videos in the store, where I not only describe what the different products do, but also why you might want to consider using them. So there's a lot of content and value in the store. You could even just go in there and learn some stuff from the videos and not even buy anything. That's fine too. So thank you more than anything just for listening. Don't feel obligated to ever buy anything. This podcast is free, and I am going to keep it that way. And if you feel like supporting, you can always leave a review or just text this episode to a couple friends who might enjoy the wacky conversation that you just listened to. Thank you so much. And I will be back this Friday with a bonus show where we take a tour of Transformational Healing Universe with Dr. Har Hari, where he uses all of these different modalities on me and explains what they are and exactly what they do. So that's a really cool bonus, kind of a part 2 to this episode. So I'll be back Friday, then again Sunday, then Tuesday. We are banging them out, keeping that content flowing to keep you educated and inspired. Thanks so much. Be back in your eardrums real soon.